Episode 16, Chapter 15, Who and What's to Blame. Chapter 15, Who and What's to Blame. There it is. Garland rose to the top of the final hill before his destination, with his 4 companions close behind him. Here in Cornelia, it was nighttime, the sky covered in clouds. No monsters neared the dreadful group, nor any other wild animals. They were alone for miles, with nothing but the grassy plains and the temple before them in sight. The Temple of Fiends. Although it's starting on its way back to the Temple of Elements now. The broken, decayed building was indeed showing signs of what could almost be mistaken for health, the age and grime beginning to fade. Though it could not be seen well in the night, the color was even beginning to return, the white of unblemished marble. Disgusting. Well, we're here. Now, we wait. For what, Master? Carlton asked, removing his helmet. The sick green glow from his eyes and the speck of cloud in his head spread well away from him in the darkness. Even the moon was shrouded in clouds, making the 4 monsters the only source of illumination for miles. For Tiamat's demise, of course. Garland glared at the temple. If we go in before then, the elements will notice and stop us. In this form, I'm still too weak. The moment Tiamat dies, though, they'll be distracted. As soon as they are, we go in. Run straight ahead, don't make any turns or slow down. Just keep going. Our target is down at the end of the front hall, there's nothing in the way. Once we reach it, I'll take care of the rest. As you command, Master. Maria replied, patting the restless Smithy on one of his heads. Hissing, the Hydra suddenly whirled his heads around to a clump of trees, shortly before a hail of arrows flew out towards them, and Maria gasped. Attack! The Cornerian Guard! Garland snarled. Let's go, Carlton! The rest of you, stand back! The other 3 obliged, and the 2 knights stood in the path of the arrows, wooden shafts bouncing off their plate-armored bodies without much effect. Now! Kill them! Charging, the villains reached the clump of trees, where the unlucky guardsmen were turning to run. Gygas and Maria were faster, though, circling around, they killed with a tap of a staff and petrified with a single glance, while Garland and Carlton ripped them apart from behind with their blades. Smithy charged into the center of the mess, head snapping and spraying fire in all directions. The entire debacle was over in a matter of seconds. So much for that. Gygas snorted dismissively. Indeed. Well done, people. I chose you well. Garland complimented them, leading the way back to the field. In the weeks that they had taken to travel to Cornelia, they had been attacked multiple times by local security. Each time, the 4 followers had grown in skill. As they stood before the temple, the Chaos Knight paused. You know, I think you might even be strong enough for something else, that would make this operation even more successful. We are yours to command, Master. Carlton bowed. Excellent. Garland smiled. Everybody join hands, then. Maria to me, then Gygas, then Carlton. Carlton, hold one of Smithy's hands. The Chaos Knight completed the loop by doing so himself, and all 5 stood there quietly for a moment, as the magical power built. Then, the colored lights in their heads and eyes dimmed and were gone. Then reappeared, but in different places. Their bodies followed suit. Maria's skin blazed red and fiery, while Gygas shifted to a deep green, and Smithy darkened to gray. Carlton's flesh was hidden, but his armor became covered with a white enamel. Only Garland remained the same. Changing blessings. Gygas was the first to realize what had happened, tentacles over his maw spreading into a skull-like grin. I never imagined it possible. For me, anything is possible, given the right material. Garland shrugged. These should suit your bodies and minds more. Now,
We continue our wait. It won't be long.
There on that hilltop, the 5 villains waited, until the cold wind around them suddenly paled and stopped, and a glow of white light began to appear in the northwest, high in the sky.
It's time. Go!
Garland yelled, rushing through the temple's doors. The other 4 followed him, tearing through the front hall and into the central chamber. There, on the altar in the back of the room, a black sphere of crystal the size of a man's head waited silently.
An orb.
Gygas gasped.
Indeed it is.
Garland agreed, smiling widely as he rushed to it.
The 5th orb. My orb. I'm back.
As he reached out to it, the orb began to hum, and then glow, flickering between colors rapidly. Orange, blue, purple, green, and black, shifting, it began to expand, becoming not a sphere but a circle. A hole in the air, changing colors at blinding speed now, only a blur.
Come. Your destiny awaits.
Beckoning, Garland stepped through the hole, and after a moment, the other 4 followed. As soon as the last of Smithy's heads had gone through, the hole collapsed, reverting back into the black orb. With a clink, it dropped back to the altar, and remained there, silent and unchanging once more. Above, clinging to the ceiling, the bats of the chamber watched and remembered, as they always did. And in another time, but not another place, the black orb rose again, to the amazement of the 4 in the chamber. They watched in disbelief as the flickering, shifting hole opened, and Garland stepped calmly forward, followed more hesitantly by his entourage.
Who dares?
One of the chamber's denizens demanded, waving a tentacle.
Who could? Who else?
Another snapped at him, bones rattling.
You, sir. You are the Chaos Knight, are you not? Indeed I am, Lord Lich.
Garland confirmed with a bow.
But not the Chaos Knight of this time, as you all well know. I am a Chaos Knight of the future, and from the future I come to seek your aid. Fiends, be at ease, for I know you, and you know me. We are allies and more, and everything we stand for requires that we combine our forces to meet the greatest threat of all.
The other 4 who had come with Garland remained silent, staring at the faces they had thought gone forever. The faces of their masters, the 4 fiends, all assembled before them.
A time portal!
Tiamat hissed in wonder, watching the black orb collapse back into itself.
I had wondered as to its possibility, but to see it actually exist. Save it, sister.
Carrie yawned.
He obviously came for a serious reason. Nothing like this has ever been done before. There's something big going on.
She smiled at the Chaos Knight's companions.
And we need to know about it. I assume that's why you brought those 4. Correct, Lady Carrie.
Garland smiled as well.
They have partaken of your blessing, and have thus become part of you, and you part of them. The blessings contain remnants of your future selves, and their bodies enough power to increase your own for the battle ahead. Absorb them, and remember what will happen. Very well.
Kraken stretched out a tentacle to tap Carlton on the forehead, and Lich followed suit with one skeletal finger to Gyga's temple. Both froze, then melted into orange and purple energy that flowed up the appendages into the 2 fiends. Carrie and Tiamat were more direct, mouths stretching to engulf the luckless Miria and Smithy. Their screams cut off abruptly as the 2 fiends swallowed, traces of the light leaking from their maws for a moment. All 4 fiends slowly nodded as the memories of their futures returned to them.
This cannot be.
Lich spoke at last.
We must prevent this. To be slain by mortals, the elements returned before their time, it is an abomination. You were right to come to us, O Chaos Knight. Indeed.
Garland glanced around.
Before we continue, though, may I inquire as to the location of the current Chaos Knight? I think it is only proper that I follow the example set by my companions. As you've noticed, this body is weak. It will not serve me for much longer. I am here, Garland.
A new voice called from the chamber's entrance. A man in shining plate mail, with a purple cape and horned helmet, exactly like that worn by Garland.
I'm sure you remember me. Of course.
Garland stepped forward.
Shall we then, Chaos Knight? We shall, Chaos Knight.
The other man agreed. Touching hands, the two shimmered, then darkened, becoming mere man-shaped outlines around a black emptiness. The two shapes flowed together, becoming one, then returned to cohesion, a single Chaos Knight in his armor that stood before the fiends. One by one, they bowed to him, but only Lich, the eldest of this cycle, spoke.
Father Chaos.
The skeleton murmured.
Command us. Father Chaos.
The other three echoed in unison.
Guide us. Arise, my sons and daughters.
The Chaos Knight instructed them.
Arise, and let us speak of the future. The future, and how we may destroy it utterly. And of them. Of the Light Warriors.
Crescent Lake City was different from when last the Light Warriors had been there. Then, it had been pleasant and beautiful, even when Carrie had been driving the heat to stifling levels, something about the capital had remained strong. Now, though, the dark clouds that hung over the skies of the entire world had dampened the life from even this lakeside paradise. The city's inhabitants walked and talked slowly, dismally, each of them feeling the gloom that had overtaken everything. The clouds had come minutes after the warriors had left the Sky Palace, and remained ever since, a thick, black barrier that filled the heavens and refused to depart. Days passed, and the world shifted under them, but no matter how far south they went, the darkness remained, causing them to suspect the entire planet was similarly affected. To make matters worse, the elements had been silent and unresponsive ever since air had returned. Even fire had not heeded Vlad's attempts to call her, to the Black Wizard's surprise and fear. The trip had not been pleasant, and when they came before the Circle of Sages again, the Light Warriors were as grim as the rest of the world.
All right.
Luke greeted the sages without preamble.
Enough screwing around. We killed the fiends, all of them. We did it. We won. And it's still not over. Something is very wrong here, and we want to know what it is. Talk, old men. You don't know the half of it, Luke.
Luken shook his head.
Something is wrong, all right. But at the same time, entirely expected, although nobody actually did expect it until it was too late. Didn't we tell you to stop with the dim mind games and clever wordplay?
Drake growled.
We don't have time. We know, stupid.
Valish snarled back.
You want answers? Good, we've got them. We finally figured out some of the deal with the outsiders, the exceptions. The weird ones. The Chaos Knight, and the Black Orb.
As she said the last words, all four Light Warriors reeled, clutching their heads, and there was a crack like thunder as a spell was broken.
The Black Orb.
Mary groaned.
How could we forget? We saw it, but we never asked you, or any of the elements. What's wrong with us? Judging from that effect, I'd say somebody enchanted you before you became too strong to resist such a thing.
Merton guessed, stroking his beard.
When was the last time you thought about the Black Orb? Lich.
Drake realized, eyes flashing.
He got us with his last breath. It has to have been him. So he and the others were planning this all along. But the Chaos Knight.
Luke frowned.
You mean Garland? Killing him was the first thing we did. Yeah, killed him, yeah.
Gakath agreed.
But yeah, never figured out what the hell his deal was. Mistake. He came back. That'll teach me to make jokes about zombies.
The knight shook his head ruefully.
So he's back, and he did something to the black orb. What is that thing, anyways? It's the fifth orb, is what it is.
Auric explained.
The Chaos Orb, the Orb of Evil. The one that serves the Chaos Knight. He's to the fiends what you four are to the elements, and he's been around a lot longer. Like the fiends, every few centuries, a Chaos Knight comes into the world.
Macgreason the dragon looked even more dismal than the other sages.
We dragons should have known better, but we always dismissed them as not important in the long run. Ceremonial. Garland was only the most recent. It's always the same, formerly upstanding mortal champion suddenly becomes a monstrosity akin to the fiends themselves and terrorizes whatever part of the world he came from originally until age dwindles his power to the point that he can be killed, and the power that filled him lies dormant until the next Chaos Knight rises. So then this undead Garland thing is out of the ordinary.
Drake reasoned.
Something different happened. Exactly. You happened. You killed the fiends before their original turning points.
Darius continued.
As soon as it became apparent that you could, the four of them began preparing something. They set aside a portion of their power that would be channeled to the black orb, and hid it. In their newly awakened states, the elements didn't notice it until it was too late, and the spell was completed. The black orb has become something else. A gateway in time. Time magic.
Vlad snarled, smashing a fist against his palm.
It's the most advanced magical element. But with that kind of power, such a gate is possible, all right. Where does it go? 2,000 years into the past, to the time when evil's power was the greatest.
Lashy answered, face grim.
At that time, the rising points of the Chaos Knight and the four fiends was nearly identical. All five were at their maximum power. That is where the forces of evil plan their last stand. Time magic has rules, just like all magic.
Kalibak continued.
That's our only advantage. The portal was created between 2 points in time, and cannot be altered from those points. If Garland and the fiends take a month in the past to prepare before they come back to this time, it will be a month since Garland left this time as well. So we have some time. But they will return.
Sarda stated definitively.
The prophecy refers to it as a time loop, it works both ways. Garland will come back, and bring the rest with him. They will pour out from the black orb, all four fiends and the Chaos Knight, at the heads of an army of evil massed into one force. And with that power, they will swarm over our world, and destroy it all beyond any hope of recovery. Then it looks like we've got no choice.
Luke glanced at the other three light warriors, who all nodded.
We gotta stop this. Only way. Can you?
Callan wondered.
Can even you defeat all four, and the Chaos Knight as well, when their powers are greatest? We gotta.
Drake shrugged.
Like Luke said. Simple as that. If we don't, everything's over anyways. Why not try? We're the only hope for the world. That's what we were taught all our lives, and what we still believe.
Mary echoed.
That's all there is to it. We're going. Can you tell us how long we have?
Vlad pressed.
A month, as Kalibak said. Or at least, so the prophecy states.
Arasham reminded them.
I understand that the airship's power has been augmented even further by the element of air. Yeah, we got time.
Luke grunted, thinking.
A few last-minute preparations. Run Vlad and Mary by Lefane to learn those last spells of greatest power, I think was how they put it. go by the dwarf cave to get my sword made. Drake, you got anything in mind? I'm good.
The elf shrugged.
Then we hit the temple, and hope the time portal works for us too.
He chuckled grimly.
So even this was in the prophecy. They might have missed it now, but back when they were writing this, the elements were planning for this to happen the whole time. Ma was right with her conspiracy theories all along. That actually makes me feel better.
Vlad disagreed.
It means they believed we could do this. You, being optimistic.
Drake stared.
Yeah, it's the end of the world, all right. Enough, you two.
Mary smiled despite a heavy sigh.
We should be going, then. Even if we have time, it's best not to waste it. The sooner we get there, the better. Yeah.
Luke agreed.
Let's go. Unless you have any more advice. Just one.
Lucan frowned.
The only thing in the prophecy we still don't get. Do you remember how you started your journey? Of course. Sarah.
Luke frowned as well.
Hey, wait. The reason that was so important to everybody but me was because she was involved with the prophecy, but she hasn't done anything with that yet. Exactly.
Sarda echoed.
The line in the prophecy about her is the only one we haven't applied to anything. The gift of the princess from the land of the temple shall shatter the wall of evil, and the will of evil as well. She's not supposed to go with you or anything, but... Well, like we said, we don't know. Just keep it in mind. Right.
Luke nodded.
And for the rest, we'll trust to luck and fate like always. Let's get going.
Weeks later, the clouds still remained in the heavens, but bore no rain. They simply hovered, grim and silent, refusing to let the slightest trace of light shine through. The people of Corneria were every bit as subdued as those in Crescent Lake, barely even noticing when the airship Icarus had parked outside the city walls and 4 heroes had come to the castle. Explaining things to the royal family, the light warriors had decided to rest one last night in the capital where they had begun their journey together. Now, Luke was on a balcony with the Princess Sarah, the same which they had said their goodbyes on when the knight had left the city, almost a year ago.
The greatest sword ever made by the dwarves, or so he claimed.
Luke recalled as Sarah examined the gigantic longsword he now carried with him, the adamantium used to make it nearly pitch black with only a faint sheen.
He named it Excalibur. I just hope it's enough. Good thing I was able to grab the stuff from the Sky Palace, wouldn't even have it otherwise. It suits you.
Sarah decided.
You look good with it. Like a true hero, instead of the klutz who tried swimming with his armor on a couple years back. I suppose that's a good thing.
Luke admitted with a wince.
I'd take it as a favor if you didn't go spreading that tale around to the enemy, though. I'm sure Tiamat would find it hilarious, but... I think I can manage that.
Sarah agreed with a faint smile that quickly disappeared.
You'll have to fight her again, then. Tiamat, oh yeah, and she'll be even worse.
Luke replaced the Excalibur in its sheath across his back.
If I understand this right, all 4 of them will be worse than Tiamat was the first time. And even if we get them down, that still leaves Garland. No telling what he'll be like now, except that it won't be good. This is too much.
Sarah declared suddenly, lowering her face into her hands.
It was bad enough that you had to out and fight the fiends. The fiends, Luke. And now that you've done that, and come back to me, you have to go do something even worse, and it won't even be in this time. Why? Why can't they just let you be with me? Haven't you done enough already? Why does it have to be you? Sarah,
Luke's voice trailed off as he realized he had no answer for her.
Because there is nobody else, Your Highness.
Another, older voice answered instead.
Because nobody else can.
Both Luke and Sarah looked over the edge of the balcony as the element of air rose, standing on nothing.
Because if he does not, the world, and everything in it, will end. Lady Air.
Sarah quickly wiped her eyes and curtsied.
I'm sorry, I did not mean to cast any disparagement on you. The court formalities are unnecessary, Your Highness.
Air assured her.
Me and my siblings are beyond such things. Good.
Sarah stood quickly.
I never did like them. I'm guessing you know that already, though. Indeed.
The element admitted.
I know that Luke owes you greatly, more than anything, you're the reason he has become so strong. And by extension, I owe you much as well, if not for that, I would not be here now, and Tiamat would still reign. You have my gratitude, Your Highness. Call me Sarah, please.
The princess insisted.
And if I understand things, I owe you just as much. I've heard you and the other elements directly created the Light Warriors. Which means it's thanks to you that Luke was present in my life. I don't know how I'd have managed without him. Oi, oi.
Luke protested mildly.
Could we stop talking like I'm not here when, in fact, I am? Thanks. Be nice.
Sarah murmured before turning back to Air.
Lady Air, is there really no other way? I'm afraid not.
Air shook her head.
If the Chaos Knight is allowed to return through the time portal, not even these 4 brave souls will be able to halt the tide of evil. Everything will be broken, and this world will fall apart into nothingness. The only hope is to strike first. By taking the offensive, there is a chance. Otherwise, it all ends.
Luke finished.
And this place would be one of the first to go, so close to the temple. I won't let that happen. I can't. I have to go, Sarah, but I'm still keeping my promise. I'll come back. You had better.
Sarah closed her eyes.
I'll never forgive you if you don't. I'd never forgive myself either.
Luke agreed, then turned back to Air.
I assume you and the other 3 have been busy recently? You didn't come when we tried calling. Indeed. We've been trying to find out everything we can about the situation.
Air confirmed.
The others are contacting your friends. I believe my sister in particular was eager to see young Vlad again. I can't imagine why.
Luke shrugged, somehow managing to keep a straight face.
You must have been working pretty hard for her not to respond to him. This was important. As the men at Crescent Lake told you, this is a disaster.
Air shook her head.
And we still don't have enough memory back to know what we were thinking back then. That was what we were mostly working on, without much luck. About all we got was that Garland didn't go alone. He took 1 blessed minion from each of the fiends with him. Weird.
The knight frowned.
Any idea why? Yes.
Air nodded grimly.
The blessing involves infusing the minion with some of the fiend's essence. By taking back the essence of the fiend from this time, and then having the fiend of the past absorb it.
She broke off, seeing the glazed look in Luke's eyes.
Well, to get to the point, the fiends back then will remember everything that happened to the ones you killed. They'll know all about, and be expecting, you when you come. Swell.
Luke sighed.
And you won't be able to come with us, I imagine. We and our opposites cannot exist at the same time.
Air confirmed.
And even once you kill the fiends then, the corruption in the temple at that time was so strong, our consciousnesses will be unable to remain there for long. It'll all be up to you, I'm afraid. We'll just have to cope, then.
Luke squared his shoulders.
It's our job, it's gotta be done, nobody else can. We'll manage. Good.
Air smiled approvingly.
I knew you could. I'll leave you two alone, then. Appreciated.
Sarah smiled back as the element dissipated.
All right. I won't tell you not to go, or to forget your duty, or anything like that. I know it wouldn't work on you. Just remember. You promised. I will.
Luke agreed, and the two of them fell silent, watching the clouds above shift and churn until it was time for sleep.
There it is, lads.
Bicky the pirate lowered his airship down in front of the Light Warrior's final destination.
The Temple of Fiends. Still as ugly as ever.
Luke assessed the decaying, collapsed temple scornfully.
If we win this, we have got to get some good remodeling crews in here. The guys who fixed up the bridge over the Temple River seemed pretty good.
Drake suggested, then shook his head.
Man, seems like forever since that. And now we're right back where we started. Life's funny sometimes, eh? Right, down ya go.
Bicky threw a rope over the side.
Shame we can't go with ya, but them's the breaks. We'll be rootin' for ya from here, and if it don't take, well, we'll give it a shot. Excuse me.
Vlad blinked.
Nothing personal, but how do you expect to manage that? Remember that clanking monstrosity in the Sky Palace? Think his name was Warmek.
Mr. Smite reminded them.
After we got him down, we pillaged the corpse, and pulled a whole lot of those nuke things from him. The ship's got them all in the engine room now. If anybody comes out of that temple that isn't you four, we're plowing this baby right into ground zero. World ending anyways, it's worth a shot. We'll pray that that doesn't become necessary.
Mary winced.
But there's only one way to do that. We have to go now. If you make it back, we'll throw the biggest party in the history of the entire damned world.
Bicky vowed as the Light Warriors climbed down.
And if you don't, we'll be along shortly and we'll throw the party in the afterlife instead. Knock 'em dead, kids. And to think, when we found him, he was just a petty crook terrorizing Provoca.
Luke chuckled once the pirates were out of earshot.
That seems like forever, too. Enough reminiscing.
Vlad growled.
We've got business up ahead, and I'm not so optimistic as to expect it to be unguarded.
Despite the Black Wizard's reservations, however, unguarded was exactly what the Temple of Fiends was. Just like their second visit, the halls were quiet and lifeless, and the Light Warriors walked ahead to the central chamber without any fuss whatsoever. Inside, the black orb waited for them, a tiny speck of light visible in its depths.
Right, now how do we do this?
Luke wondered.
Do we just walk into it, and the time gate activates? That would be most unwise, young hero.
A high-pitched voice answered, and all four Light Warriors looked up to see 5 bats flying down from the ceiling to circle their heads before landing on the altar, lined up in a row.
The black orb is the orb of evil. To touch it without protection would doubtless be fatal, even for you. Especially for you, actually. Talking bats?
Drake shook his head.
Now I've seen everything. That story.
Mary snapped her fingers.
From the Lefanish. Are you the Sky Warriors? Indeed we are.
The apparent leader of the bats confirmed.
400 years ago we battled Tiamat, and were cursed with these forms. Now that she is slain, a portion of that curse is shattered, and we are able to speak. Have you been here all this time?
Vlad realized.
Then you must know about the black orb. Indeed. And we have heard Garland talk, when his senility overtook him.
Another bat explained.
Back then, he only considered this plan in theory, but he still spoke of how you four would follow him. The black orb is strong, but your orbs are strong as well.
A third bat continued.
If you place them on the altar alongside it, the black orb's power will break, and the time gate will be open to you. Hot wiring it, huh? Works for me.
Drake nodded approvingly.
Thanks for the tip, fellas. The fate of the world depends on you. That is more than enough reason for us to give aid.
The leader of the bats squeaked.
Go then, into the past, and confront the true enemy. May the elements be with you. If they aren't from the start, it won't be long.
Luke smiled as the light warriors placed their orbs on the altar, one on each side of the black orb, forming a cross. Slowly, as if intentionally resisting, the black orb began to glow, until the darkness inside it was replaced by a bright white light just as strong as that of the other four orbs. That white light spread, filling the entire room, until it was all the light warriors could see. When it faded, they were no longer in the central chamber that they knew. The shape of the room was the same, but it held none of the familiar dust and decay. More noticeable were the four statues that now stood in the chamber's corners, of the four fiends. Stone images of Lich, Carrie, Kraken, and Tiamat sneered down upon them in eternal silence.
Looks like it worked.
Luke drew the Excalibur.
Now we just have to figure out which way to go. Hey, the black orb's not here.
Drake pointed out as they took their own orbs back. Indeed, the altar now behind them was empty, with nothing upon it.
Wonder where it went. Garland has it with him, I'll bet.
Mary guessed.
Wherever he is. Let's find him. Right.
Charging through the door, Luke decapitated the first monster he saw, a startled frost dragon that had been caught completely off guard.
What the hell?
Vlad wondered as he followed Luke, turning a chimera to stone.
This is anachronistic. Tiamat shouldn't have evil dragons following her in this time period. Time's being put through the ringer, man. Some nasty side effects are all part of the deal.
Drake reasoned, setting some animated ooze on fire.
Which way do we go, fearless leader? Let's try the corner chambers.
Luke decided. As they soon discovered, in its intact state, the back half of the temple's ground floor was separated from the front, leaving them with only two choices. Carving their way through monsters, the light warriors made their way to the southeast corner, where a staircase led up.
This place is multi-floor now. Figures.
Vlad snorted, casting his dirk up the stairs and into the chest of a wizard vampire, followed with a fire spell that ignited the undead menace.
How high do you suppose it goes? Hopefully not as high as, say, the Mirage Tower.
Mary smashed a frost giant's head in with a blow that delivered intense electricity along with the crushing impact. The white-skinned monster's huge form jerked spasmodically as it toppled.
Or if it does, let's at least hope they have an elevator. Good way to get ambushed.
Drake reasoned.
What now, fearless leader? Other corner rooms? Nah. Let's check the center.
Luke suggested.
The room above the one we came in through.
Plowing their way through the monsters, the light warriors advanced to the central chamber. It was exactly like the one below, 4 statues in all, save for the back wall. What appeared to be some sort of door had been there, but was now covered with a dark grey square of energy.
That looks like some sort of force field.
Vlad frowned.
The question is, how do we break it? Ha ha ha. As if you could.
A hissing voice mocked them.
This barrier was created by Master Chaos himself, and it draws its strength from everything negative in existence. Smash it, slice it, blast it, whatever you wish, your anger will only increase its strength.
The air coalesced, forming a familiar shape, a skull, dark and fog-like, formed of blue haze. The only solid-looking parts were the savage fangs that filled its jaw and the single, massive eyeball that stared at them, both blood-red.
Welcome, Light Warriors. I'm Phantom, the bouncer in this fine establishment. An eye monster. One worse than the normal ones.
Mary frowned.
And it's undead, too. Luke, don't look at its eye. Got it.
The knight slammed his eyes shut.
What about you? These ribbons we've been finding around should protect us from most of its magic.
Vlad smirked.
Come on, monstrosity. Hit me with your best shot. As you wish.
Phantom snarled, staring the black wizard full in the face. For a moment, Vlad seemed to shake like he was in an earthquake, but then the effect passed, and he smirked.
Knew it. Your boss needs a better hiring policy. Now it's our turn. We know how to deal with undead, right, guys? Oh yeah.
Drake grinned. Together, all 4 light warriors released fire and harm spells, mid-level for the 2 sword fighters and full power from the wizards. The Phantom could only stare helplessly as the wave of intense magic washed over him like a tidal wave, leaving nothing in its wake but a scorch mark on the floor.
So much for that.
Mary turned her attention to the force field.
This is a nasty piece of work, all right. I don't think he was bluffing when he said force wouldn't bring it down. That's okay, I've got another idea.
Luke informed them as he began rummaging through his pack.
Yeah, I know, me with ideas. World's ending all right. I didn't say anything.
Drake protested mildly.
Yeah, but you were thinking it.
Luke pulled out the loot that had been given to him by Sarah so long ago.
He said negative emotions fuel it, right? So the converse should be true as well. Everybody, think positive.
As he began to play the lute, his mind drifted to the future, and the princess who waited for him. After a year of practice at campfires and inns, even the knight's fingers had learned to dance across the strings, producing the first tune Sarah had ever played on it.
Positive.
Vlad echoed, pulling out the orb of fire and staring into its depths, now grey and hazy once more, but with a trace of white glow almost visible in the center from time to time as the fog within shifted.
Yeah.
Drake agreed, simply looking into Mary's eyes, and her back into his.
Think of the good times, folks. Of our friends. Sarah, Bicky, Smite, Bahamut, and all the rest of them. The people we're doing this for.
The knight played his tune. The ninja and the white wizard took each other's hands. The black wizard stared into the orb. And the barrier began to melt. Sighing, it slid down bit by bit, solidity failing and falling apart, sloughing into a slimy mess that dissolved further into the air, becoming a fog that then ignited and burned away into nothingness. Beyond it, through the portal in the wall, a wood ladder let down into a shaft.
Let's go.
Luke put the loot away again, and without another word, the other 3 followed him down the ladder, back to the temple's ground floor. More monsters awaited them in the back half, but the light warriors continued to slay them all as they moved towards the corner chambers in the back. In the northeast chamber, they found the stairs that led further down.
Into the basement we go.
Drake shrugged as they walked down, into another world. Bearing no structural resemblance whatsoever to the floors above, the basement was nevertheless familiar to them all. It was a straight tunnel that proceeded along a length that looked to match the temple above before turning to continue along another side. Unpaved and undecorated, the earthen walls were rough and crude, exuding a strange brown glow,
It's like in the Earth Cave,
Drake recalled, grimly tightening his grip on his katana.
Unless I miss my guess, we've got our first real fight coming up, fellas. Let's be ready.
As they walked down the hall, earth elementals tore themselves loose and attacked, shrieking. Blade and spell cut them down, as they did with the golems that followed of mud and stone, and then with the blessed Medusae in the third hall. At the end of that one, a staircase beckoned them further into the temple's depths. A staircase that was already occupied.
Welcome, light warriors. It's good to see you again.
Bones clattered inside the robes as Lich, the fiend of earth, rose from the stairs, wave of dark power preceding him. Now clad in the same vile orange color that filled his skeletal frame, Lich's bones were black as night, but the look on the skull was the same as ever.
The phantom failed, I see. A pity, Garland had such high hopes for that one. Should have known better.
Drake smirked.
Same for him, hoping on you too. Ready to go down again, Boney? Perhaps.
Lich admitted, raising spindly hands.
And yet, perhaps not.
As he laughed, golden power coalesced around his hands, and Vlad's eyes widened.
Oh, shit.
The Black Wizard's curse came out an instant before the explosion, blasting all four light warriors all the way back down the tunnel to slam into the back wall with bone-breaking force. Groaning, the wizards fell, and Mary began healing frantically.
What the hell was that?
Drake demanded as Luke turned his own healing arts upon the other swordsman.
Nuke. The most powerful black magic spell known to mankind.
Vlad groaned, standing again.
It's non-elemental, so there's no way to guard against it. We have to take him down fast. If he uses that too many times, we're done for. Here he comes.
Luke yelled as Lich advanced towards them through the hall, lesser monsters having fled as soon as their master appeared.
Shot of fast, if you don't mind. You've got it.
Vlad cast the spell, as Drake used it on himself.
Heads up.
The ninja charged with the knight by his side. Lich's hands shot out to meet them, but the katana and the Excalibur swung with unstoppable force, snapping the appendages off at the wrists and sending them flying away.
Damn you!
Lich hissed, glaring at Drake. Golden light flashed, and the elf stumbled, then righted himself.
Not this time.
Drake grinned fearlessly.
No instant death for me, thanks.
Lich recoiled, and he and Luke moved diving to the ground. Surprised, the fiend of earth froze, then realized too late what was happening. The concentrated beam of fire and holy magic struck him, and he was blasted all the way back down the tunnel as he had done to them. Striking the wall, the fiend of earth rose quickly, rage filling him as he drew himself to his full height.
Enough of this.
He began to cast the nuke spell.
I couldn't agree more.
Drake dashed under his hands. With a startled oath, Lich launched the spell at the other light warriors and recoiled, then grinned.
Gotcha!
From behind his back, the fiend of earth pulled a blade. A katana, just like Drake's. The curved blade came down, and Drake's rose to meet it. Swords dancing, the elven ninja and the fiend of earth moved back and forth at the end of the hall while the other three struggled to heal themselves from the second nuke spell. Suddenly, Drake shifted his stance and adopted a defensive position.
Ha! Got you!
Gloating, Lich brought his blade down from overhead, but instead of remaining still to try and bear the hit, Drake rose on a pillar of flame and met Lich's blade with his own. The ninja's ascent proved the superior force, and the fiend of earth's katana spun away. Cursing, Lich slashed at the ninja with his hands as he landed once more. Ignoring them, Drake ran to the base of Lich's robes, but did not stop. He continued to run, vertically, up the front of the fiend of earth. Caught off guard once more by the insane charge, Lich could only stare as Drake reached his head and slammed the orb of earth into the skull's gaping jaw. Lich screamed, and Drake leaped into the air, then came down with his katana into the skull, slicing it down the center and slamming the orb through the fiend's chest.
No, not again. How can you have become so strong?
Lich screamed as the orange energy filling him turned to white. With one last wail of agony, the fiend of earth exploded. Where he had been, a strange, green-skinned wizard stared at them all for a moment before vanishing, leaving the glowing brown orb to hover in the air.
That's one down. Good work.
The voice of the element of earth congratulated them as Drake retrieved his orb.
Keep moving. Got it.
Drake grabbed Lich's katana as well.
Let's see how this works out. Don't kill yourself.
Vlad warned as the light warriors walked down the stairs into a bubbling cauldron of molten lava.
Wonder what was up with that wizard. It didn't seem important. Let's focus on the job at hand.
Mary cast anti-fire on them all, and they continued into the blaze. Giants with iguanas on leashes, both blessed, patrolled the floor along with the fire elementals that hid in the lava. All fell, regardless of their strength, and the light warriors made their way through the tunnels. This time, there was no single straight path, but a fiery maze that took longer than the previous floors to traverse. Still, they pressed on, and in the end, they found their goal.
There are the stairs.
Luke noted.
Kari's not coming out of them, though. Maybe she wanted us to go to her.
He and Drake started forward.
No, wait.
Vlad yelled as he realized the trap.
Stop. Too late.
Kari's triumphant shriek answered as the portion of the wall immediately to the left of the stairs exploded in a blast of flames that blew the knight and ninja away. Beyond the smoke, the fiend of fire emerged. The scales on her lower body were an ugly green, and both her humanoid flesh and the flames of her hair were bright blue now. In her eyes, the same raging hunger for destruction glared.
Hello again, Vlad. I told you we'd be meeting once more, didn't I? Actually, I've been eager to do so myself.
Vlad met her smile with one of his own.
For some reason, I really want to kill you again. That's the spirit.
Carrie laughed, 6 arms moving the blades they held around her in a complex dance as Luke and Drake jumped her. Instead of forming together to guard like the previous fight, Kari's swords now spun around individually at high speeds, deflecting the swords of her enemies.
Let me just get these annoyances out of the way, and then you and me can catch up. It's been too long. Sorry, lady, but we ain't got time.
Luke growled, attempting to take off an arm without much luck.
You know how it goes.
Drake agreed.
Places to go, people to kill, that sort of thing. I'm sure you understand. Oh, of course.
Carrie hissed, suddenly leaning back. Her jaw hung open, and another fire blast burst out, charring all 4 light warriors equally this time. Laughing, the fiend of fire charged Vlad, who stood his ground resolutely, casting a spell as she loomed above him.
Let's see how your side likes this one.
The black wizard declared as golden light emerged from his hands, and the nuke spell exploded into Kari's exposed form. At the last moment, realizing what he was doing, the fiend of fire reached behind her and pulled out something, just as Lich had. When the smoke cleared, it was made visible, not a new sword like Lich, but a mantle of blue cloth, with patterns of gold foil stuck to it.
Master Garland was right to give this to me.
The fiend of fire smirked from beyond the cape.
That spell would have hurt far more otherwise. That does look nice.
Vlad agreed.
I think I'll take it after we kill you. If you can.
Carrie challenged, sword swinging around to meet Luke and Drake's blades once more, this time only using 5 arms, the sixth remained free to pull up the cape of protection at a moment's notice.
Come on, Vlad. Hit me with another one. If you wish.
Vlad chanted, and a white skull appeared above him, eye sockets glowing red. Inexplicably, it also had the fins and tail of some sort of fish. Laughing, it flew into Kari's face, through the cape as she raised it. As it sunk in, she froze for a moment, then broke free.
Forex? Death magic?
She mocked him.
Did you really think that would work, Af?
She screamed as the blades of her foes finally found her arms, chopping two of them away.
No, but it made you pause for a moment.
Vlad informed her smugly.
And that's all we needed. You think this is over?
Shrieking, Kari blasted Luke and Drake away and charged at Vlad again. In her rage, she didn't even raise her blades, she simply fell upon him, mouth gaping open. Unflinching, Vlad ran forward as well and jumped to meet her, orb in his hands. As he vanished into the fiend's maw, the light from another nuke spell shone out, and then the explosion came. Gold and blue energy both erupted outwards in a blast that knocked all three other light warriors flat. Through the haze, a red Medusa was seen for only a moment. And then the smoke cleared, and Vlad stood triumphant with orb aglow once more, the cape he now draped over one arm, all that remained of the Fiend of Fire.
You did it! I knew you could! Thank you, Vlad!
The element of fire's voice was jubilant.
I'll be with you from now on, keep it up, and win. That's the plan.
Vlad agreed.
Onward.
The third basement, to nobody's surprise, was filled with water, and the architecture was aged marble like the temple above, though carved in a different style. Like the floor above, it was a maze of many different paths, and the light warriors were forced to wander aimlessly as they slew the blessed beasts of the ocean.
You doing okay?
Drake asked Mary as she obliterated a wizard sahag.
If you mean in regards to how much magic I have left, plenty.
The white wizard assured him, smashing another.
We're not needing as many healing spells as I thought we would, to be honest. If you mean in regards to Kraken, I'm fine there too.
She smiled as the Thor's hammer from Shiva slew a third foe.
He should get a real kick out of this one, I think. That's the spirit.
The ninja grinned.
Let's hurry up and find him so we can kick his tentacled butt all over again, then.
Continuing through the water, the light warriors eventually found the end of a hall that divided to go both left and right.
Let's try left first.
Luke led them to that turn, and they all saw the stairs at the end of it.
All right, that leads down. So Kraken.
He blinked, and whirled around.
Here's ink in your eye.
The Fiend of Water laughed, darkening their eyes as he lunged from behind. Not letting up for a moment, he followed with each and every one of his limbs, pummeling the light warriors into the ground with tentacles that remained purple, but now glowed neon. The only true change in color was his vest, which was now a blood red.
Ha 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 ha! All too easy. You think so?
Mary struck back, and the electrical shock from her hammer's impact made Kraken pause.
Ow!
He winced, then grinned.
Lightning too? Don't mind if I do.
He released electricity of his own, and the light warriors all reeled, but stood their ground as Mary lamped them, restoring their vision.
Work out a plan.
Luke yelled to the wizards as he and Drake charged.
We'll keep him busy. Actually, I already have one.
Mary called back.
Brother. Right.
Vlad called lightning into creation, hundreds of bolts that lined up along his arms before blasting off in rapid succession.
Ha!
Sneering, Kraken brought up a tentacle with a cape just like Kari's that absorbed the brunt of the lightning.
What do you think of that? I think it worked.
Mary replied coolly from the water above him, having teleported there with the exit spell a moment before. Cursing, Kraken tried to turn, but before he could, she cast another spell. And as the white glow washed over him, Kraken screamed in pain.
Offensive magic? From you?
The fiend of water sputtered in disbelief.
Impossible. The Fade spell. Holy magic, so strong that it hurts all things evil, not just the undead.
Mary explained as she swam down towards him.
No.
Now panicking, Kraken turned his limbs upon her, then screamed again as the freed swords of Luke and Drake tore into the bases of the limbs. Another scream, as Vlad's magic struck him again, this time without the protective cape in the way. And yet he still attacked Mary, pounding and pounding over and over.
Die, die, die.
No, Mary healed herself, restoring her body from a broken mess to full strength with only one spell.
Not us. You.
Enough tentacles had been removed that she could swim to the fiend's face, and she met it with her hammer, crushing it inward and releasing electricity. Kraken choked and faltered, and the orb of water was cast home, shriveling him up into nothingness. The white-armored knight that remained only swam for a moment, clutching his throat in surprise, before disappearing as well.
Good, good.
The element of water roared approvingly.
Yeah, got him. Just Tiamat and the big guy himself now. Yes.
Mary agreed, collecting the drifting mantle of protection and draping it over her arm just like her brother before she dispensed a few healing spells to her friends.
All right, that should do it. Let's go.
The fourth basement was the strangest of all. The stairs led down to a winding metal walkway that hung over what seemed to be an endless void. Though the ceiling of the cavern was visible above, no walls or floor beyond the hanging path could be seen, simply darkness, stretching on forever.
Today's advice? Don't fall off.
Drake advised them, then blinked.
Hey, looks like she's not going to try anything sneaky at least.
At the end of the path, Tiamat stood waiting, scales glowing green. Silently, she watched them approach, slaying all of her servants in their path. When they reached her, she regarded them for a moment longer before speaking.
So you have come this far, and still you seem strong. If the other three fell, then I will have little chance as well. You have surpassed us, light warriors. Yeah, pretty much.
Luke nodded.
It's our job. We're gonna mow you down too, and your boss after. Ha!
Tiamat's heads all grinned.
Fool! You know not what you say. The Chaos Knight is beyond your imagination, even should you slay me, you will fall at his hands. And with you gone, nothing shall stop him from destroying the world. Enough talk.
Vlad scowled.
Banter is meaningless at this point. Let's go. As you wish.
Tiamat shrieked, all 5 heads flying out and exhaling, releasing the wave of 5 spells. The light warriors stood resolute, and met it with magic of their own. Mary raised the staff from the sea shrine, and summoned fire, while Drake and Vlad brought forth lightning and ice from their own powers. The 2 waves of magic collided and cancelled each other out, but behind that of the light warriors, Luke ran with sword ready.
History repeats itself, Tiamat.
The knight yelled.
Get ready to die again. We shall see.
Tiamat's right foreclaw met him with a sword, just like Lich had met Drake. Like Lich's, it was a katana, but the difference in quality was easily noticeable. The blade held by Tiamat was slightly heavier, yet more carefully shaped, and it shone like silver. It met the Excalibur in Luke's hand, and forced it back.
No way!
The knight gasped.
How? You are limited to swords from this world, but I am not.
Tiamat crowed triumphantly.
The mass immune is beyond any blade this planet will ever know.
Roaring, she brought it down on Luke again, but this time the knight met it with the opal shield he carried on his left arm, before chopping at the fiend's closest neck.
A sword does not make a swordsman.
Luke snarled, striking again and removing the stunned head.
Lich had some skill, but you just chop. You've never used a sword before, you're used to teeth and claws and breath. You're not worthy of that blade. Is that so? Then take it from me, if you can.
Tiamat's eyes narrowed as she attempted to slice him again, and was met with his shield just as easily.
Damn you! Behind you!
Luke replied easily. Two of Tiamat's heads whirled around to see Vlad call forth a glacier larger than her body, front end pointed like a colossal spear. The massive iceberg smashed into her and bore her over the edge of the walkway, but Tiamat soon returned, running across the air like it was solid, ignoring the gaping wound in her side.
Wretch!
She spewed lightning and struck Vlad down, then returned to Luke.
Now then, we wait, where are the other two? Up here!
Drake called cheerfully. His twin katana were lodged in the ceiling, and he hung from them easily. As Tiamat turned her heads to stare up, he pulled the blades loose and dropped onto her back.
Hope you don't mind me copying your move, boss. Get off!
Tiamat spewed fire and ice both at the ninja, who grunted in pain but remained there.
Go for it, man!
The elf called.
Huh!
One of Tiamat's heads began looking around for Luke, but found no trace of him.
You little Invis! That's what I've been doing,
Mary confirmed, also unseen.
Waiting for you to take your eyes off him so I could make him disappear. Now you can't find him. Is that so?
Tiamat suddenly brought the mass immune down on the walkway before the huge wound caused by Vlad's spell.
Wrong. It's so predictable. It is, or you are.
Luke caught the blade on his shield again.
I told you, but you didn't listen. Fool.
Dropping the shield, he seized the hilt of the Excalibur in both hands and lunged in a full-body thrust, ramming the longsword into Tiamat's wound up to the hilt. Bellowing in pain, the fiend of air toppled, and Drake jumped away. Pulling his sword out, Luke slammed the orb of air into the gushing green energy, and Tiamat melted away into nothingness, leaving only a grey hydra like a tiny version of herself that hissed in confusion, then followed.
Well done!
The element of air told them as Mary healed the group once more.
The fiends are dead once again. All that remains now is the Chaos Knight. Yeah.
Luke regarded the mass immune thoughtfully.
Was she telling the truth when she said this came from another world? Indeed she was. Just like Warmech, but where he was a construction of pure evil, that blade can still be used for good.
Air informed him.
It's yours now. Bear it well. Right.
Luke slid the Excalibur into its sheath on his back and picked up the mass immune.
Okay, everybody, stairs are over there. We all ready to go? As ready as we'll ever be,
Mary pronounced.
Let us go, then.
Vlad nodded.
The final battle awaits. Right.
Drake agreed.
Party time it is. We can do it.
Luke smiled at them all as he led the way down.
For the world, for everybody and everything in it that we care about. Let's win, guys.
The lowest floor of the Temple of Fiends was dark and silent, not a single monster waited there for them. Finally returning to the same style as the temple above ground, it featured the same walls and marble pillars, but the knowledge of what lurked here gave the otherwise peaceful calm an intimidating feel. Unopposed, the light warriors walked through it, around a curved hall.
This hall is built like a ring,
Drake noted.
and it goes the other way too. A complete circle, you think? More than that.
Vlad pointed out lines of decorative pillars.
The angle of those suggests that they form one side of a triangle around the center. And 3 smaller triangles in the tips of that one.
Mary finished.
Like some sort of magical array. It's like the builder wanted something down here to stay down here. Well, it didn't work.
Luke grunted, dismissing the architecture.
We wouldn't be here otherwise. There's the door.
The plain, ordinary wooden door set in the inner wall was almost insultingly normal.
No turning back now. Let's get to it.
Opening the door, Luke led the way through, and the other 3 walked behind him into the heart of the Temple of Fiends. Garland, the Chaos Knight, waited for them.
Welcome, friends. It's good to see you again. I'm sure you remember me.
The villain greeted the light warriors from the fore of a complex display of statues. In the 4 corners of the room, stone depictions of the 4 elements in their most basic forms stood, a cluster of stones, a leaping flame, a drop of water and a whirling tornado. Between each of them and the center of the chamber on straight lines were graven images of the 4 fiends, identical to those in the upper levels of the temple. And in the center itself, an altar, with the black orb pulsing upon it. Before that altar, the Chaos Knight stood, steel armor and violet cloak restored completely, with the visor of his horned helmet down.
You slew the fiends. I suppose that means you think you've won. We've come close enough.
Luke shrugged.
Your plan's pretty screwed. There've been Chaos Knights before, if you go out there without them, yeah, it'll be a pain, but will you be able to cause the end of the world? Think not. And especially not if we kill you here. You thought you killed me before.
Garland wagged a finger at him reprovingly.
But I came back, and the fiends sent me here. Now, here we are, 2,000 years before any of you were even born. Things were certainly different back then, as I'm sure you noticed. The current Chaos Knight had a different idea of style than I did as Garland. Ah well, it's to be expected with my personality. You really caused us a lot of trouble, you know.
Drake grinned angrily.
Here we are, Tiamat's dead, we did our jobs, time to retire young and rich. And then we hear that hey, we got more work to do because one clown just couldn't stay dead and was gonna undo all our hard work. You got any idea how much that pissed us off? Actually, I believe I do.
Garland nodded in mock sympathy.
I do understand, Drake. It must have been something much like how I felt when Tiamat brought me back from my well-deserved rest to tell me you 4 had killed 2 of my fiends before their time, and were planning to follow suit with the others. 2 of your fiends?
Mary raised an eyebrow.
That's an odd bit of terminology. Wonder what they'd think if they heard you call them that. I bet Kraken at least wouldn't like it, he seemed pretty petty about those kinds of things. Kind of sad, really, considering who and what he was.
She paused.
Not as bad as thinking knock you all down is an impressive threat, though. Ah, the thief's been working on your sense of humor.
Garland noted.
Very nice, you really were a simple little thing when we first met. All that sanctimonious Idonti-like violence and nothing else, at least on the surface. Good to see you're letting it out. As for the fiends, they'd approve, just like they did with my plan to return to the surface. And like they will when I bring them back again. What are you jabbering about now?
Drake snorted derisively.
Way I've heard it, even if you win, they won't be coming back until you're in dentures and diapers again. And that's not gonna happen anyways. You underestimate your own importance. How becoming of heroes.
Garland congratulated them.
humility and all that. But you can't be totally ignorant. Especially you, Vlad. The elements,
Vlad replied after a moment.
They took a risk creating us, didn't they? That silly fool, what was she thinking? I'm going to have a long talk with her about this when we're through with you. Such care, even when speaking with anger. You're just as changed as your sister.
Garland gave him a ludicrous thumbs up, amusement filling his voice.
And you're right. You four are connected to the strength of the elements. If you fall and lose and die against me, then they will lose their eternal struggle against their dark sides, and I will be able to transform them back into the fiends with my orb. And then, we shall carry out our plans as if you had never come here. To destroy the world.
Luke growled.
To go into the future, and use your combined power to smash it all. That's the first part, yes.
Garland nodded approvingly.
But it goes further. When our task is near completion, we shall return to the last portion remaining here. And as it dies, we shall return to the past through the time gate, and repeat the entire performance. You're even more insane than I thought.
Mary snarled in disgust.
Do you have any idea what that kind of paradox would do? Yes.
Garland threw his arms out widely.
It would obliterate this world beyond any hope of recovery, ever. Such is the reason I possessed mortal after mortal. Such is the reason I cursed the elements to succumb to the fiends. Such is the reason for my very existence. This world will die, and only I shall continue on, alone in eternity forever. Who are you?
Vlad demanded.
What are you? The elements evaded that question, even at the end, but it's time we knew. You're not Garland, not really, any more than you're the Chaos Knight of this time. You said you possessed mortal after mortal. Who's doing the possessing? What's your true name? It's been evident all along.
Garland sat back on the altar.
My name is my title, but I am no knight. I am he who is beyond the elements, beyond creation itself. To the fiends and the elements both, my name is Father. But to the world, I can truly be called Chaos. The Black Orb.
Luke nodded slowly.
The Orb of Chaos. And the element of chaos, or the fiend of chaos. With you, I don't think there's any dividing line at all. Just times when you're not present. So you're the one who's been behind it all, from the very beginning. You have no idea how right you are.
Chaos agreed.
Well, then. Now that we understand each other perfectly, it's time for us to settle this. To settle the fate of this world. Will it end, as it was fated to from the moment of its creation? Or will the inevitable fail, will chaos itself prove suspect to itself? It's time we found out, light warriors.
From behind the altar, Chaos pulled his sword, a claymore, plain and ordinary, with no special design or shape at all.
Let's go, heroes. About damn time you got fed up with jabbering.
Luke charged, and Chaos met him, blades clashing.
Tiamat's mass immune, I see. Perhaps I was mistaken in giving her that.
The villain noted clinically, sword shining green.
Ah well, no helping it now.
Suddenly lashing out with twice his previous speed and power, Chaos forced Luke back, then whirled to meet Drake's twin katana as the ninja dived from the ceiling towards him.
You stole Lich's blade too, tisk tisk, such behavior from a hero. I was a thief before I was a hero.
Drake shrugged, backflipping away easily and tossing a fast spell at Luke.
If Earth decided that's the kind of guy who wanted to save the world, it just proves existence has a sense of humor. I am existence, Drake.
Chaos turned to smash Luke away again, ignoring the electricity.
So I'm happy to confirm your claim.
He glanced at the mages.
Not joining in. Just taking the opportunity to soup up our defenses, since it looks like you're busy enough as it is.
Mary explained.
Although my brother had something in mind, I think. Indeed.
Vlad launched a massive fireball, and Chaos shuddered, pausing for a moment that Luke took advantage of. The mass immune slammed into the villain's back, tearing away his cloak and carving a deep gash in the plate mail.
You're right, I do seem a bit under duress.
Chaos admitted, even as he turned to strike Luke again. When the knight tried to guard with his shield, Chaos blade slid off at an angle that nicked his arm.
You're better than I thought you would be. I was hoping to play around in this form for a few minutes at least, but I think it's time I turned it up a notch. Yap yap yap, shut your trap.
Drake taunted as he dived at the enemy's back. Before he could strike, something emerged from the wound in the armor or, to be specific, two somethings. Wings, broad and dragon-like, scales shining golden as they spread behind Garland, and the ninja's katana clinked off harmlessly.
There we go. Can't catch me there again now.
Chaos laughed, turning to slash at the surprised ninja and slice him across the gut. Heavily wounded, Drake rolled away, and Chaos moved in for the kill only to be smashed over the head with the mass immune.
You're hardly invincible, big man.
Luke yelled, pulling his sword back for another strike.
Neither are you.
Chaos retorted, spinning around to open a hefty gash on the knight's arm. Despite the massive crack all along the horned helmet's top, he left it on, and no blood came forth.
And that goes double for your friends.
Suddenly changing his grip on the sword to one hand, he turned the other palm towards Vlad and instantly created a storm of lightning that smashed the black wizard flat, charred and smoking.
Now, where's the other wizard? Helping out. Miss me.
Drake vaulted over Chaos' head, turned as he landed, and caught the enemy's blade with his katana in a diagonal cross, the back blade reversed.
Boss. Blade breaker. Got it.
Shifting his own sword around, Luke drove the blunt side into the junction of Drake's swords with all of the power he could muster in a double-handed swing. The force of both swordsmen focused into the edge that faced Chaos' blade had the intended result, the claymore broke, blade flying away.
Oh ho! Time to step it up a bit again, then.
Chaos discarded the hilt effortlessly, then blinked as Luke and Drake dropped to the ground instead of pressing their assault.
What are you planning ahead?
Vlad interrupted him as he cast a titanic glacier in the Chaos Knight's general direction. It slammed into Chaos and bore him towards the back of the room, but as it moved, the momentum slowed, then stopped. Discarded gauntlets clanked on the ground next to Drake and Vlad, and the iceberg was raised, lifted into the air by the pair of immense, clawed hands that had caught it.
Close, but no cigar.
Chaos whirled and hurled the glacier at Mary, who smashed it fearlessly with her hammer, electricity shattering it into man-sized splinters that showered the room.
Ouch!
Drake winced as he narrowly dodged impalation, the skewer still scraping his leg.
Not that I'm criticizing you, love, but would ya mind not trying that again too often in the future? Let's see how you like it, then, elf.
Laughing, Chaos created an iceberg every bit as huge as the first and slammed it towards Drake. Shrugging, Drake melted it with fire before it reached him.
Try again? Oops, maybe not.
He smirked as Luke slashed the villain across the waist, behind him and below the protective wings.
You can't fight us all off.
The knight informed him as Chaos reeled.
Focus on any one of us, and the others will strike you down. Your strength is in solitude, but ours is unity. We will not let you destroy this world, Chaos. You judge my strength, but you still have yet to see its entirety.
Chaos spun and slashed at the knight's chest with his claws, driving him back. As he did, his lower armor creaked and fell off, revealing more of a monstrous form far too large to have logically been contained by it. Scaled like his hands and wings, the legs bore additional decoration, 2 masks of bone on the knees, grinning skulls. Almost as an afterthought, a reptilian tail uncurled, knocking away the hundreds of rapid-fire lightning bolts Vlad sent.
See? No big deal.
The black wizard shrugged.
We're the same, so far. You haven't merited mine and Mary's strongest spells. You have to have noticed, we've been sticking with what's necessary, and saving our best for your best. And we're pulling even, as far as I can tell. Looks that way to me too.
Luke agreed, slashing at the enemy's claws over and over without pause.
Which means we're really just wasting time here, doesn't it? Why don't we get down to business? This is fun enough, I guess, but we do have other business to take care of. As you wish.
Chaos raised his hands, and golden light shone before exploding in the nuke spell that blasted all the light warriors to their knees. Whirling, the evil one flew to the altar, where the black orb remained.
You wish to see the full power of chaos? Then you shall. Behold!
Grabbing the orb in both hands, he smashed it into his own chest, through the plate mail and into the flesh beneath. Vanishing into the darkness, the orb disappeared, and the armor fell off, revealing a gaping hole that was soon filled by a draconic head, hissing. Reaching up to his face, Chaos ripped the visor of his helmet away as well, revealing his own features. There was no nose, the fang-filled maw stretched up to just below his white, blank eyes. The rest of the helmet melted into his flesh, becoming golden-scaled, the metal horns turning to bone. Now fully revealed, the incarnation of Chaos roared in triumph, and the room around them shattered.
What the hell?
Drake yelled as the walls, the pillars, the floor and ceiling, and everything else broke apart into the endless, black void. Standing on nothingness, the light warriors faced their foe, the only thing that remained to them save the statues of the chamber.
Welcome to my world!
Chaos bellowed in triumph, covering himself with white light. All of the wounds and injuries from the previous fighting faded and disappeared, leaving his flesh unmarked.
The warm-up's over, children. Now, embrace true chaos.
As Luke charged, Chaos cast a hand at him, and a tornado formed, whirling into the night and catching him up effortlessly. Whirled and battered by the intense winds, Luke was borne away.
Hold on!
Mary called, finished healing the others from the nuke. Another spell came from her hands, and the tornado was interrupted by a wall of glowing white light that appeared around the knight, shielding him. Chaos whirled upon her as Luke dropped, and water suddenly surrounded her, a swirling whirlpool that drew her around and down into its depths with bone-breaking force.
Mary!
Drake yelled, running towards her.
Hold on, I'm coming, oh, damn it all!
A massive crack appeared in the nothingness beneath his feet, and cursing like a sailor, Drake tumbled into it before it slammed shut with a sickening crunch.
Bastard!
Vlad spat, releasing another nuke spell. Finally, Chaos winced under the power, but when the light faded he remained alive, smoking but smirking.
Not good enough!
The evil one roared, snapping his fingers. Around Vlad, the air erupted into flames, hovering around him in an endless inferno. Howling, the black wizard tried to escape, but the blaze remained. Grinning, Chaos turned back to his final opponent, meeting Luke's blade with his hands.
And now there is only you, little leader of the mortals, who thought they could destroy chaos itself. You've lost, Luke. You've all lost. Think so?
Luke grinned back fearlessly.
Might want to look around you, then. What?
Chaos blinked, then released another tornado to sweep Luke away. Freed, he turned his head around, rotating it in a full circle. And as he saw the others, his blank eyes widened in their sockets.
How?
From the swirl and crack, from the inferno and tornado, 4 warriors were rising, each holding an orb. Battered, broken, but still defiant, they stood. Drake was worst of all, his body a hovering corpse, broken by the earth, and yet his orb held him aloft, gripped by him moments before the crush. And then he stood again, white light restoring him to full health, as Mary's white magic brought him back from death with only a few words.
Life magic beyond even the clerics.
The white wizard smiled serenely, as she simultaneously mended her own broken bones.
You're not getting away from me that easily, Drake. Wouldn't dream of it.
Drake smiled back.
The only one who thought we would fall so easily was the fool, I think.
Vlad followed up, completely ignoring the dreadful burns over his body.
He forgets who we are, what he himself told us we were. Let's show him, then.
Luke suggested as Mary finished with his and Vlad's wounds. All 4 restored, the light warriors raised their orbs above their heads, and the power poured out, covering them. Living, glowing auras of earth and fire and wind and water covered them, then solidified. Armor, weapons, even wings like those of Chaos, who was watching the display in stunned incredulity.
What are you?
The Evil One demanded.
We are the voices, the wills of the elements.
All 4 answered in unison.
The elements created this world, and all who dwelled upon it. You came and tried to unmake it, to turn it back to the nothingness. But it is not your world, Chaos. It never was, and never will be. This world is our world, and you have no right to it. You have plagued it for far too long, Chaos. By returning to your true form, you have abandoned that of the Chaos Knights, who protected you. Now, you yourself shall be banished. Leave us, Father. This world is no work of yours.
As they spoke, the cold stone statues came to life, stones and flames and drop and whirlwind becoming animated and filled with color. Beyond them, the forms of the fiends shifted as well, becoming the humanoid incarnations of the elements. And in the center of it all, Chaos screamed in unholy fury.
You dare to speak to me in such a fashion?
Chaos bellowed.
Ungrateful children, I created you. I was the first, the nothingness from which all existence formed. Without me, there would never have been any of you. There would be no world, no elements, nothing. And we offered you the chance to aid us in making this world, and every other one.
The light warriors continued, still filled with the elements that had created them.
But you spurned our offer, and brought evil upon the worlds we built, seeking to return them to that nothingness. You brought evil upon us, Father, and made fiends of us. That, we shall never forgive. For that, we reject you. Begone, and never trouble this world again.
Twin Katana and Great Masamune charged, and Chaos met them with 1 claw each.
You have not the power.
The Evil One raged.
You have not the right. We have the right, for who else can? You are the one who has no right.
The warriors spoke with scorn, as Mary and Vlad cast their magics. Fate and Nuke exploded together, and this time Chaos had nothing to shield himself. Screaming, he fell back, and the swords fell upon him, slashing into his arms as their wielders continued to speak.
You have never had the right to this world, and never will. To end your plague, we light warriors were created. It was not to slay the fiends, Chaos. It was for your death. You knew.
Chaos faltered, stunned once more, not even attempting to stop Luke and Drake's relentless hacking at his arms, nor the continued blasts of Fate and Nuke.
You knew what I would do? You could not. I am Chaos. I am impossible to know, impossible to predict. None can see my actions. You destroyed that yourself.
The light warriors informed him, now smiling triumphantly.
To come to this world which you had no part in the making of, you had to possess the mortals who were the Chaos Knights. In doing so, you allowed them to become you as well. They, who you have wronged most of all, are calling for justice. And so do all those who you slew in their name. All who have suffered from your presence in this world have waited for this day, the day set forth in prophecy. The day in which chaos itself is defeated. It is now.
The clawed hands of chaos spun away in blood and black energy, finally severed, and chaos shrank back, covering his spell-blasted body with the stumps feebly.
You cannot. You cannot.
He wailed.
You cannot. We can, and will.
Discarding swords and spells, the light warriors now advanced with their orbs in their hands. Where the spheres of crystal touched, chaos flesh melted away into the void. Bit by bit, piece by piece, the monstrous form dissolved, claws and horns, scale and tail, fang and fury all melting away as one into the darkness that had formed it. Finally, nothing remained but the black orb, as chaos ribs and organs dissolved around the darkness that was his heart. The four orbs of light covered the one of darkness, their light spreading to fill it.
And now, be gone. No.
The voice of chaos howled in empty denial one last time as the white light filled the black orb entirely. All five orbs glowed in unison, shining with the light of the stars. And then, cracks appeared in the central orb's surface, and with an explosion that was beyond sound, or sight, or even feel, the orb of evil burst and was gone. Around the light warriors, time and space spun, black of the void replaced by the same pure white light of the orbs. And then they fell to earth, back in solid existence once again, in the center of the Temple of Elements, in their own time and place. For a time, all four remained silent and unmoving, sprawled in the central chamber without a word. Eventually, Drake was the first to stand.
Well.
The ninja dusted himself off with exaggerated casualness.
That seems to have done the trick. Shall we head back? Only you could describe all that in such terms.
Vlad grumbled, standing as well.
Idiot. It's part of his charm.
Mary disagreed, standing as well.
Somebody has to. We'd never get back otherwise. Yeah, but I think we've got one more bit left here.
Luke noted as he followed the others to his feet.
Check out the door.
The others turned and followed his gaze to the row of plate-clad, violet-cloaked apparitions that stood in a row. Ghost-like and transparent, they stood before the light warriors in silence for a moment that seemed to last forever before one of them reached up and removed his helmet. The face underneath was young and unlined, but it still bore faint similarities to the features they had found under Garland's visor upon his death so long ago. As if it were a signal, the others all removed their helmets as well.
Thank you.
Garland spoke for them all.
Finally, we are freed from the curse of the Chaos Knights. We, and the entire world, owe you a debt beyond imagining, light warriors. Just doing our job, man.
Drake shrugged.
But we appreciate the props. Go on to your rest, guys, if anybody deserves it, it's you. We shall, at long last.
Garland nodded.
Will you be coming as well? Huh.
Luke blinked, thinking the ghost spoke to them, then looked up at the fluttering of wings.
We shall.
The leader of the bats agreed, as their forms shifted and returned to human, transparent like the Chaos Knights.
We are freed of our curse as well, with the Black Orb's destruction. Now, our people can rebuild without fear of Tiamat ever again. Thank you, Light Warriors, and farewell.
All of the spirits, Sky Warrior and Chaos Knight alike, faded and were gone.
We did it.
Luke smiled.
We really did it. We won, guys. Yes.
Mary agreed.
But perhaps we should go outside before Bicky gets too antsy and decides to go ahead with his plan. Aw geez, I forgot about that.
Drake slapped his forehead.
We're still recognizable, right? Good. Come on, we gotta stop him. This is the most ludicrous exit ever.
Vlad complained as they walked out. Laughing, the light warriors walked into the morning sunlight, and returned to their world. End of chapter.